Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, hello, nice to meet you. I am Jennifer Charlee, a freelance illustrator and artist, and I make all sorts of creative content here on my channel, from product reviews, time-lapse artwork, and general advice for having your most fulfilled creative life. Today, I have to admit something to you all. I have a bit of an addiction. Okay, a pretty big addiction to erasable pens. So here I am showing you just a few of my collection of FriXion pens by Pilot, which are an erasable pen that erases with heat. They have a little rubber nib on the back, and when you rub that very quickly and create friction and create heat, the ink erases. I found these pens few years back. I ordered a few and I got really obsessed. They weren't super readily available yet, but a couple of my friends who were traveling to Japan, I asked them if they could pick some up for me. And they're really awesome friends and delivered a lot and added quite a bit to my collection, including all of these pens that are a super wide range of colors, the ones I just showed you that are the very thin ones, as well as the highlighters, even some markers and colored pencils. I have had so much fun with these. I actually have a video here on my channel that is sort of a story-based illustration piece, and I paint with the ink, which was super fun. I'll link that video up above and down in the description if you are interested in seeing that. These Pilot pens actually have a lot of refills, at least for those first few I showed you that are the 0.7 millimeter size and typically have the red, blue, and black colors. These refills are pretty readily available, and I'm noticing a lot more of these FriXion pens are available here in the States at places like Target and things like that, so they're really readily available. So you can see I have quite an obsession with these erasable pens, and so I got really excited when this company, ParKoo, who has their own erasable gel pens, contacted me to see if I wanted to do a review. And I couldn't not try these possible competitors. So today's video is thankfully sponsored by ParKoo, who sent me these awesome erasable gel pens, and I thought I would do a little bit of a head-to-head comparison with these and the FriXion pens, especially since I have almost an entire set of these almost exact kind of the Pilot FriXion that are the retractable pens, and you basically just click them on the little side there, just like that, and they are the same size and about the same colors as the FriXion retractable pens that I do have. Here, I really wanted to show off how erasable pens like this can be used on all sorts of different paper. A lot of the time, I use these in my bullet journal or to make lists on things like that lined paper there, or post-it notes and stuff like that, where I need to add something to my list, take it off, change things around, and I've noticed on different paper that sometimes the FriXion pens will leave kind of a yellow residue or won't erase all the way, or different textured papers will have a harder time erasing. So I decided to go through and test a ton of different papers and put these both head to head in a test to see how well they erase and write and all that good stuff. Now, I did show a few of these colors in the FriXion line that the 0.7 millimeter size I have has actually run out of ink. That is something that I don't love about the FriXion pens, is I feel like the ink doesn't last very long. I feel like I use it up pretty quickly, and I don't use these pens all too much compared to other writing pens. I actually try to save them because it feels like the ink, you just kind of go through the ink pretty quickly, which is unfortunate. Now, obviously I can't test this with the ParKoo pens yet because I've only had them a little bit, but I might do an update later on to see how quickly I went through this ink for the ParKoo pens. But because of that, I didn't have all the exact same colors at the same size for the FriXion pens to compare, so I did use a similar ink color in a different line weight pen that I have, the thinner pens that I think are the 0.38 millimeter size. That's why those are a little bit thinner. So here I am going through and erasing, and I will apologize that my camera is connected to my table, and so I did have a hard time erasing without shaking the camera. So there is going to be quite a bit of shaking here, unfortunately. So I really appreciate you guys bearing with me throughout this video. Here I am showing a bit of a close-up and a little bit of an angle. You can see there's a little bit of residue left. I noticed that with pretty much any of these kind of erasable pens, you'll have just a tiny bit of residue left over. This is on regular printer paper, but it didn't seem to be much different between brands. And to be honest, I feel like these erased just about the same on just about every kind of paper. The only ones that were a little harder to erase, or harder for me to erase, were on the mixed media and watercolor little sample pieces I have. And I'm actually going to use the mixed media paper at the very end of the video to show you just a little speed draw or time lapse of a drawing that I used with exclusively the ParKoo pens, just because this is an art channel, and as much as I hate using all that ink up, it was really fun to use a different medium and try drawing something, so I will be showing you that at the end. And I think we're just going to sort of speed through the rest of these types of papers, and I can tell you a little bit of my first impressions, a little bit about the company ParKoo, and I have a few categories that I want to compare both of these brands in. So let me tell you a little bit more about ParKoo and their company. And first off, I want to mention that the pens I am using and were sent to me are the 0.7 millimeter ballpoint retractable pen, and it's a set of 7 colors that are, like I mentioned, very comparable to a almost exact set of the Pilot FriXion pens, and that is why I wanted to compare these specifically. ParKoo is a trusted Amazon seller, and they have their own website, but they do have their products on Amazon for you, and they are mostly these erasable gel pens. I will say that even though they have this small range of items right now, it looks like it can kind of be implied by the way their website looks that they might have more art supply products coming out in the future, which would be really exciting, and I would love to talk to them more about this and possibly trying out other products from them. Like I mentioned, the heat is what actually erases or makes this ink lose its color or lose the pigment. You can also use other things. It doesn't need to be the little nib. You can use a hairdryer, an open flame, or a heat gun like I have, and the ink should disappear. At the end of this drawing, I will show you me using my heat gun to show how quickly the ink can disappear, which is really pretty neat. Then try to make it reappear by using a ice pack, because apparently the ink will reappear if it is exposed to negative 10 degrees Celsius, which is about 14 degrees Fahrenheit. And so I at least attempt to try to get the ink to reappear again. So while this is a neat feature, why would you want erasable pens? So I wanted to go through just a few different functions that I find useful for these kinds of erasable gel pens. First, as an artist, sketching is something I do quite often, and being able to erase my lines is always good, especially if I can avoid smudged pencil everywhere. I will say though that this type of ink does sit on top of the paper and takes a little bit of time to dry, but again, it is erasable, so it's not too bad, and it won't really come off on your hands like pencil will. Now, I wouldn't necessarily use this for a sketch for a more professional artwork I would be working on, but it is fun to have these in my sketchbook to kind of practice with and to have different colors to just kind of play around with and have a little bit of a selective palette. And specifically, as someone who loves to make lists and write in my bullet journal, these pens are really fantastic. This is the bulk of me using these pens, and I can move things around on my calendar, I can make lists, I can erase it and write over again, which is really fantastic. And I just use these pretty regularly for my planning and making lists on a day-to-day basis. Something else I realized recently when I was researching these pens just a little bit is that a fabric or other kind of artist that works with sewing or maybe making plush, things like that, can use these pens on the fabric because the ink will come out or disappear when it is ironed. And so I thought that was a really cool thing that I myself don't have a lot of perspective on, but I did read that and I thought that was a really cool option for some of you out there. I'm sure that there are other things I'm not even thinking of that these kinds of pens would be useful for, so make sure to comment down below. Do you make lists and plan with them like I do? Do you make art with them? Or is there something else that I've missed? I'm really curious to know. So right now I figured I would move through a few different categories to compare the ParKoo pens to the FriXion pens, and we're going to start off with price. So right now on Amazon, which is their preferred method of you purchasing their items, the ParKoo pens are $10.60 US. That is compared to the very similar set of the Pilot FriXion pens that are listed at $20.73, but right now the price is lowered to $10.98 US. So considering that these Pilot pens are maybe on sale, if you're looking at just the sale price versus the ParKoo regular price, they're not a huge difference in price. And this might change in the future if Pilot does not run a sale or have these for this price. The ParKoo pens are slightly cheaper, but right now on Amazon, it's not a huge difference. Next up, I wanted to go over the sort of overall feeling of kind of holding the pen, writing, drawing, using it in general. And I honestly slightly prefer the ParKoo pens. Felt like the ParKoo pens are actually a little bit smoother with the way they write, with the ink flow. This could possibly be because I've had my FriXion pens for a little while, but it felt like the flow of the ink was a lot quicker and just smoother with the ParKoo pens. I am using them to draw here, and I didn't have any issues with the ink skipping here or there, which I have had with the FriXion pens on occasion, and that might be something that the ParKoo pens will have issues with in the future. That's just something that I would need to look into eventually. The next category I wanted to talk about was accessibility and variety. Obviously, both are on Amazon, which is fairly accessible to most people, but the FriXion pens have a very wide range of products now. They have varying line weights, lots of different colors. I mean, you could see all the options I had at the very beginning. I have seen them more and more at places like Target, and that is something that FriXion does have over ParKoo currently, and I am excited for ParKoo to possibly have other kinds of art supplies and things available in the future, but right now FriXion is winning in the variety and accessibility category. I also wanted to mention the refills real quickly. Luckily, both these pens do have refills available. Just out of curiosity, I played around with the refills and realized that they are actually really interchangeable. So if you happen to have the FriXion pens in the 0.7 millimeter size and are going through them really quickly, like I've mentioned I've had issues with, and want to buy refills that might be just a little bit cheaper, the ParKoo refill ink is going to fit those pens exactly and is about $2 cheaper than the FriXion refills right now on Amazon. And you'll be able to use them just the same as the FriXion pens, which is kind of a neat feature. So here at the end, I did mention that I wanted to try to get the ink to reappear after I blasted it away with my heat gun, and I used an ice pack, and I don't think I could get it quite cold enough. I might be able to throw this in the freezer and see if it comes back, but I really couldn't get it to come back, but I'm kind of okay with that. I don't feel like the ink reappearing is something that people will need to use very often. So it's more about being able to erase it and rewrite on top of the erased part is what I like about these pens. But I did want to mention that I at least tried. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to leave a like, comment down below, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and if you're interested in more reviews like this or the type of art that I do. If you are interested in either brand, I do have affiliate links through Amazon. I'm so thankful that ParKoo reached out to me about testing out their supplies. I'm excited about working with them again and hopefully to help them better their products. As always, I hope you guys have a creatively fulfilled day, and I will see you next time. Bye guys!